It's 1:30. I'd like to call the meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Commission for Monday, September 19, 2016 to order. Can I have roll call, please? Commissioner Clare?
Here.
Commissioner Littlefield?
Here.
Commissioner White?
Here.
Commissioner Hale?
Here, sir.
Commissioner Schuline?
Here.
Commissioner Miller? Here. Commissioner George?
Here.
Commissioner Yonkel?
Yep, here.
All present and accounted for. Can I have a motion concerning the minutes of the August 15th meeting, please?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a couple of corrections, I think. At least under items I and J, I don't remember Commissioner Clare making the motion. Do you? I think I made that motion. Not that it's terribly important, but...
Okay. We need to go look at the meeting minutes.
Yeah, I don't believe I made the motion.
Okay, yeah, you wouldn't make the motion and vote against. Okay, so we need to make the motion with that correction.
Yes,
So,
sir. I'll move the minutes be approved with the correction, as noted.
And then what are the corrections? Items?
I and J.
Items I and J. The person who made the motion was Commissioner Littlefield. Commissioner Schuline. Okay, do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Clare. Any discussion, any further discussion on the meeting minutes? Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes from Commissioner Schuline with the modifications for items I and J, and seconded by Commissioner Clare. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Report on license and taxi. We're going to wait till the October meeting on that. No items on the consent docket, so we go to 5A, Elite Motorworks, LLC, to consider an application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity from Elite Motorworks, LLC, to operate 10 vehicles in limousine service. Anybody here to speak on this item? All right. Do you need to speak, or, okay, just in case you do. All right. Can we have staff input?
All right, you've got a complete application before you, and we're recommending approval as presented.
Okay. Do we have a motion concerning item 5A?
I'll move it be approved.
Okay, motion to approve from Commissioner Schuline. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second by Commissioner White. Do we have any discussion? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5A from Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner White. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. We go on now to item 5B. Kim Igri, Principal, Nichols Hills Elementary School, and the Traffic Management Division, to consider a request for, 1, a southbound turn lane restriction effective from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. and from 2:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. school days only on North McKinley Avenue at its intersection with West Wilshire Boulevard, or a southbound right turn only restriction effective from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. and from 2:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. school days only on North McKinney Avenue at its intersection with West Wilshire Boulevard, and item sub 3, to consider a request to consider amending the effective days on the existing northbound access restrictions on North McKinney Avenue from West Wilshire Boulevard to Northwest 80th Street from Monday through Friday to school days only. Do you have anybody here to speak on this item? Yes, ma'am. Can I have your name, your address? You have up to 5 minutes.
Okay. My name is Kim Iragi. I'm the principal of Nichols Hills Elementary School. Our student drop-off and pickup runs from Northwest 88th down North McKinley to Wilshire, where our building is located. And we have a little circle drive that comes in where we load and unload the students. When traffic on Wilshire is busy and cars attempt to turn left, it will back us up about 10 or 15 cars, and people can be ugly. So if we could, we spoke before, if the right turn only would work perfectly, if we could just circumvent all that and have them go around the building and circle back into the neighborhood, that would be perfect.
Okay, so you're asking for sub-item 2 and 3,
For the right turn
not
only.
1?
Yes.
Okay.
And currently on Wilshire, there's a no left turn onto McKinley. If that needed to be altered, it's fine to only be on school days.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else speaking on this item? All right, staff input?
All right. Well, you've got our comments before you, and I believe Principal Aragi summed them up. We had reviewed this item, and we submitted it with a right turn-only restriction from McKinley onto Wilshire Boulevard. And the reason being is because, in addition to restricting left turns to right only, would also prevent through traffic from going through. And as the principal indicated, their desires to try and move vehicles around this, circulate them around the school during their morning drop-off and pickup periods. So we presented we're recommending approval with subpart 2 and also with part 3, which limits the effective days on the do not enter restriction from Monday through Friday, which applies all year long, just to be applicable during school days.
All right, thank you very much. We have a motion concerning item 5B.
I move for approval, including
have-
subpart 2 and 3.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5B from Commissioner Littlefield with sub-items 2 and 3. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner George. Do we have any discussion? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5B, subparts 2 and 3 from Commissioner Littlefield, seconded by Commissioner George. Votes, please. All right, item is approved, ma'am. Here we go on now to 5C, Jesse Stroop, to consider a request for the addition of east and westbound stop control on Northwest 79th Street at its intersection with North Oldie Avenue to establish a two-way stop control. Anybody here to speak on this item? Yes, ma'am. If I could have your name, your address, you have up to 5 minutes.
My name is Denise. I'm representing Jesse. He's actually in a meeting. I didn't have to do this before. We are submitting a request for a stop sign. We've actually had an employee of the oil company almost be hit in that intersection. And I have noticed working at the Kirkpatrick building, which is on the corner of Western and Wilshire, that people are trying to avoid that actual stoplight, so they cut through back behind where those businesses are. Because there's not any way to yield or stop, there have been a lot of individuals who actually work there in our building and, of course, and around where we did gather the petitions to have one there. There are no accidents because of the fact that it's just a minor hit, so it's not going to be reported. But we would like some type of control there to help people bypass that stoplight. There are some actual new renters in that industrial area that have also have been complained as well to us and knew that we were trying to get a petition for that intersection. We don't necessarily have to have it on the west and eastbound of Ollie because there is a dead end on that one side, but going north and south on, I believe it is Ollie, would be very beneficial for the workers there, the industrial employees there, and then, of course, for individuals that are trying to bypass that light, whether they're trying to turn, westbound or eastbound to avoid that intersection or to avoid it to go down to Britain from Western. Sorry.
Oh, perfect. All right, thank you very much. Anybody else speak on this item? Okay, can I have staff input?
All right. Well, you've got our staff comments before you. If you look on the recommendations on page 3, we did review the intersection with respect to the manual and uniform traffic control device warrants and the city's warrants for the use of two-way stop control. At this particular intersection, Ollie's actually, Northwest 79th Street is the major roadway, which is where they're requesting the stops. Ollie is kind of the minor. She had addressed maybe looking at traffic controls on Ollie as opposed to 79th Street. The item that you have before you today is only for stop control on 79th Street. If the item wasn't approved administratively, we could have yield stall signs installed on Ollie Avenue, which might help address some of the condition that you're describing. It wouldn't be the same as a stop, but it would assign the right of way to traffic that's on 79th Street, which is the busier of the two roads. Okay, so I'm not sure if that would be something that Mr. Stroop would be agreeable to, because if that was the case and they didn't want to pursue the stops on 79th Street, then I guess the only thing you could do is just the item could be withdrawn, and administratively, we could have yield control placed on Ollie, and we could do that right after this meeting.
We would really appreciate that, just to try to help with that traffic control
Okay.
in there. Something just to kind of slow it down, because it is posted at 25, but when people are in a hurry, they definitely don't do a 25 mile an hour through those areas.
So you want to keep the item going now for the stop signs? That's what he was saying is,
Oh, okay.
Now, is it my understanding that you're talking about, when you're talking about, I guess, traffic trying to bypass the signal at Wilshire and Western, that they'd be entering from Wilshire to go around it?
That is correct.
Okay, so placing stop controls on Northwest 79th Street doesn't do anything to stop that. If anything, it probably helps facilitate it somewhat.
well, that's what I understood the way you briefed it is, you want the stop controls to help the people that are doing that. That's what she's saying.
There's two. Is to help the people from bypassing the stoplight at Western and Wilshire to where they're not zooming through there when the actual employees or employers of the industrial area of that section, they don't have an employee being hit. I myself go through there at times when we've had actually some water issues right there off of Wilshire. We've had to kind of bypass and go around, and that became pretty clustered at that time for a good couple of weeks. And there's just no sense of yielding in that area. It's just going.
Well, yeah, and I think that we're clear that we need some type of traffic control at the intersection.
Yes.
Just want to make sure you understand that the current request is for stop signs on 79th, which would stop the road with the most vehicles, am I right? Stop the one with the most vehicle, so it would allow the people bypassing the light to come through.
Correct.
Is that really what you want? Or would you rather have yield signs on the secondary street slowing down the people who are just passing through, allowing 79th to be the major road? Do you see the difference in
I
what I'm saying?
understand. Yes, I do now. If we could, then just not vote on this and put the yield signs in, that would be great.
So is that basically what it is a request to just withdraw the item?
Yes.
Or have it struck? And then we'll take care of the yield
And
signs
she,
administratively.
as the representative of the person,
I don't see why not.
Council, you okay with that? Okay. Okay?
Are you requesting that the commission strike the item?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, with a recommendation that you do the yield sign?
Yeah, that's what we do
That's your
ordinarily.
recommendation, that we put the yield signs on
Ollie.
Yes, sir.
Okay? So we have a recommendation from the applicant to strike item 5C. Can I have a motion, please?
I move to strike with the understanding that yield signs will be installed.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Littlefield to strike item 5C with the recommendations to put yield signs on North Ollie at the intersection with Northwest 79th Street. Is that correct?
Can you verify that with the motioner, please?
I'm sorry?
Can you verify what you just said with the motioner? That was a little more than the motioner stated.
It was? Okay, I'm sorry. My understanding is your recommendation, or your motion is to strike item 5C with the recommendation to put yield signs on Ollie at the Northwest 79th Street intersection.
Correct.
Okay. Is that good, Counselor?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, no, very good. Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Schuline. Do we have any talk on this item? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner, no, ma'am, is that what you kind of want?
Yeah.
Okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Littlefield to strike item 5C with the recommendation to put yield signs on North Ollie Avenue at the intersection of Northwest 79th Street, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. We go on now to 5D, George Dominguez, and Traffic Management Division to consider 23 sub-items. Do we have anybody here to speak on item 5D? Okay, and the sub-items are all being put up on the screen. Okay, can we have staff input, please?
All right, this is really kind of a housekeeping item. In the vicinity around the former John Marshall High School, you want to go ahead and bring up the area map? Very perfect. John Marshall closed in 2005, and the property was finally shut down by the Oklahoma City School District in 2006. They've since sold it. It's being redeveloped into multifamily uses. The one thing that was left behind in the wake of John Marshall's departures were a number of access controls, time-limited parking restrictions, which are very much tailored to serve the residents during times when school was in session, so they wouldn't be to just keep nuisance parking from the neighborhood and confine it to the school, and a number of school zones. So what this is really kind of a housekeeping item, and we're recommending the Commission approve it so we can take down the no longer needed access restrictions, school zones, and parking controls for the area.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning 5D?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5D from Commissioner Hale. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Littlefield. Any discussion? We have a motion to approve item 5D, all sub-items from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Littlefield. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. We're going now to item 5E, B.J. Hawkins, P.E., PTOE, Traffic Engineering Consultant, Inc., to consider a request for the installation of traffic signal on South Council Road at its intersection with a private street, Southwest 2nd Terrace, located approximately 460 feet south of West Reno Avenue. Anybody here to speak on 5E? Staff input, please.
The applicant contacted us last week, and they requested this item be continued to the Commission's October 17th meeting.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning item 5E?
Move to continue.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner George to continue this item to the next meeting. Do we have a second on this item?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Clare. Do we have any discussion? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner George, seconded by Commissioner Clare, to move item 5E to the next meeting. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is moved. We go on to 5F, consider a request for the installation of a traffic signal on South May Avenue at its intersection with two private driveways located approximately 660 feet south of the Southwest 104th Street. Anybody here to speak on item 5F? Okay, staff input.
Okay, late last week we received a correspondence from the applicant, and they've asked this item to be struck from the agenda.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning item 5F?
Move to strike.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner George to strike item 5F. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hale. Do we have any discussion? Okay, motion to strike item 5F from Commissioner George, seconded by Commissioner Hale. Votes, please. Okay, item is struck. Okay, we go on now to item 5G, to consider a request for the addition of, it's Bill Carey, to consider a request for the addition of stop control at North Hudson Avenue at Northwest 18th Street to establish all-way stop control. Anybody here for 5G? Okay, staff input.
Okay, last week Mr. Carey contacted us, and he requested that items G, H, and I be continued indefinitely. It is his desire to be able to present all the traffic controls in the way of stop requests at a single meeting.
Okay. Council, can I bring in H and I all in one thing? Okay. All right, then seeing as we have the input from the applicant for the other two items, I'll read in item H, to consider a request for the addition of stop control on North Chautel Avenue at Northwest 15th Street to establish all-way stop control. And item I, to consider a request for the addition of stop control on North Harvey Avenue and Northwest 18th Street to establish all-way stop control. Do we have a motion concerning item 5's G, H, and I?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we defer items G, H, and I until the applicant requests.
Defer from Commissioner Schuline. Do we have a second for items 5G, H, and I?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Clare. Any talk? Okay, we have a motion to defer from Commissioner Schuline, second by Commissioner Clare, items 5G, H, and I. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is deferred. We go on now to item 5J, Timothy W. Johnson, P.E., President, Johnson & Associates, Inc., and the Traffic Management Division, to consider requests to, 1, remove a 2-hour reserved parking space for the physically disabled on the north side of East Sheridan Avenue from approximately 75 feet east to 100 feet east of the east curb line of Joe Carter Avenue. 2, remove 2-hour metered parking on the north side of East Sheridan Avenue from Joe Carter Avenue to approximately 160 feet east of the east curb line of Joe Carter Avenue. 3, establish a 2-hour reserved parking space for the physically disabled on the north side of East Sheridan Avenue from approximately 115 feet east to 140 feet east of the east curb line of Joe Carter Avenue. And 4, establish a full-time passenger loading zone on the north side of East Sheridan Avenue from approximately 35 feet east to 115 feet east of the east curb line of Joe Carter Avenue. Mr. Johnson? If I have your name, address, you got 5 minutes, sir.
Tim Johnson with Johnson Associates, 1 East Sheridan Avenue, Oklahoma City, Suite 200. I'm just going to briefly go through the application of J, K, and L. They all kind of run together. This is the AC and the Hyatt hotels that will be adjoining each other at the corner of Sheridan and Joe Carter. At a previous meeting, the loading zone for AC Hotel was approved. So today we're here for the loading zone on Russell and Perry, because it changes names right here at the alley, for the Hyatt, and then we're asking for the valet parking for both locations. That's why we have 3 items. And as in your description, we had to move some metered parking around, but we are able to fit back in this handicap space on Sheridan Avenue, and the staff had requested that we shift it at least 20 feet from the alley, and we were able to do that and still fit it in. So, but very simply, with this building right on the right-of-way line, it's a very congested area, not a lot of room for parking, but there'll be parking structures, as you know, in this area that are there, so the valet parking is a good use in this area. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
All right, thank you. Staff input.
Yeah, this is just basically a continuation of requests that started last month when when the commission approved a passenger loading zone on Russell and Perry. This is basically the same thing, except it's on the Sheridan Avenue side. The one difference is that this portion of Sheridan Avenue has been approved for 2-hour metered parking. And so in order to make way for the passenger loading zone, we need to present an item from the commission to go to the city council in the form of a recommendation to remove some of the limits of metered parking where they're relocating an accessible a reserve space for the disabled further away from the intersection, so it's going to be towards the east end of the new passenger loading zone on Sheridan. So we just recommend approval of the items as they are presented, with the understanding that with the commission including a recommendation that the passenger loading zone being considered on Sheridan be available on a full-time basis. And the reason being is because in the next item you're getting, the 2 follow-on items are for valet loading requests for the zone previously created on Russell and Perry, and now for the one, if approved, for the one on Sheridan Avenue. And since valets typically operate evening hours, the passenger loading zone really needs to be effective basically on a full-time basis, because otherwise it would just be effective basically Monday through Friday from 8 to 6 and not really be available during the times when valets would typically operate.
All right, do we have a motion concerning item 5J?
I make a motion to approve this request with the recommendations of the city staff.
Which is on sub-item 4 to make it a full-time.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Miller to approve with the modification from the staff full-time on sub-item 4. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner George. Any discussion? Sir?
I just have a question for the sake of learning, because I've not seen it before, a time limit on physically disabled parking spaces.
The reason for that is because historically in areas where there's metered parking, we will post a time-limited restriction for the use of the accessible spaces to mirror the rest of the metered parking. In the municipal codes, someone who's got either a plate issued through the state indicating that they're physically disabled, or if they've got a window hanger, can park at any metered parking space for free in Oklahoma City. but they could only do so for whatever the duration of the meter is. And so that's the only reason that we've echoed the time limitation on that particular space.
All right. Any other talk on item 5J? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5J from Commissioner,
I've got
Yes,
another quick
go ahead.
question, just again for education's sake. I know the parking restrictions are all enforced full-time except Sundays and holidays, right? That's what that says. Does that also include the passenger loading zone restriction?
It would ordinarily, yes.
So, in effect, in the passenger loading zone is there, for them to establish a valet, right?
Right.
So, in effect, on holidays and Sundays, they wouldn't be able to have their valet parking?
Well, that's the reason why we've requested that or presented the item as being in effect on a full-time basis.
Okay.
So the way in order to make it effective on a full-time basis, what we'll be doing is when the signs go up, rather than just saying passenger loading zone, it'll say, no, we'll have a header across the top of the sign that says no parking, passenger loading zone, which makes it clear that it's just a no parking zone, period. But passenger loading is allowed in it.
Okay.
Otherwise, you could just have a passenger loading zone, anywhere along the curb that just reads passenger loading, which means that outside of holidays, Sundays and holidays include Saturdays, the restriction could only be enforced as a loading zone, basically Monday through Friday from 8 to 6.
Okay. Any other talk on item 5J? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5J from Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner George, with the modification of sub-item 4 to make it a full-time. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. We go on now to item 5K, Timothy Johnson, P.E., President Johnson Associates, Inc., to consider a request to consider the addition of a valet loading zone within the passenger loading zone on the east side of Russell P. Miller Avenue from approximately 25 feet north to 165 feet north of the north curb line of East Main Street. Anything else on it, Mr. Johnson, you say? Okay. Staff input?
You got comments before you. It's a perfectly normal and ordinary ancillary use for passenger loading zone, especially being constructed next to a hotel, so I recommend your consideration.
Okay, we have a motion for 5K.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Miller to approve item 5K. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Littlefield. Any discussion on 5K? Motion to approve item 5K from Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Littlefield. Votes, please. Okay, item is approved. We go on now to item 5L, Timothy W. Johnson, P.E., President Johnson Associates, Inc., consider the addition of a valet loading zone within the passenger loading zone on the north side of East Sheridan Avenue from approximately 35 feet east to 115 feet east of the east curb line of Joe Carter Avenue. Anything, Mr. Johnson, on this one? Okay, staff input.
Recommend your consideration.
Motion. Do we have a motion for 5L?
Make a motion to approve the request.
We have a motion from Commissioner Miller to approve item 5L. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner George. Any discussion? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5L from Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner George. Votes, please. Okay, item is approved. Yes, sir. Thanks. All right, we go on now to 5M, Lacey Pageant, Principal, Deer Creek Elementary School, to consider a request for the addition of stock control on North Lone Oak Drive at Northwest 160th Street to establish all-way stock control. You have anybody here to speak? Ma'am? If I could have your name, your address, you have up to 5 minutes.
My name is Lacey Pageant, and I'm the principal at Deer Creek Elementary School, 4704 Northwest 164th Street in Edmond. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys so much for allowing me to take a little bit of your time this afternoon. We definitely appreciate the preventative measures that have already been taken, such as the repainting of the crosswalks, the school zone signs moving to the end of our school property, and also the speed cart program, which really did help temporarily slow down our traffic and remind our patrons of the speed limit. We have also taken measures on our side as well by adding a crossing guard in the afternoon, and we have worked with our patrol team to help step up patrols in the area to catch speeding drivers as well as distracted drivers. What I'd like for you to do just real quick is just picture a nice sunny, crisp morning in the 60s around 8:30 in the morning. There are two children brothers walking to school. Before they cross the crosswalk, the oldest brother bends over to tie his shoe real quick before they cross together, which is something their mother has always spoken to them about numerous times. The little brother decides to run across the crosswalk without his big brother as the car crosses through the crosswalk. The driver of the car was distracted by their cell phone and had no idea there was even a crosswalk there. The car barely nips the child's backpack. Should seconds not have been on this child's side, he would not be here with us today. This is a story of what took place on Lone Oak Drive last February while two of my students were arriving to school. This is a story that can happen any day, any morning, or any afternoon. There have been several similar situations over the past years. Even in the afternoons when we have a crossing guard that has been implemented after this incident, our staff member has had on numerous occasions has been almost hit by speeding distracted drivers while in reflective gear and holding a sign with a line of children in tow. We have approximately 40 to 50 children at any given time that walk to and from school every day, and I can't even begin to tell you the amount of money the city has received due to patrols being stepped up in the area with speeders. It was noted that in a 30-minute time period, there were approximately 10 to 12 stops made. We are asking today for help for our students to arrive to school and to go home safely. And we are asking for a 3-way stop at 162nd and Lone Oak Drive and a 4-way stop at 160th and Lone Oak Drive. Most of our students do utilize the 162nd crosswalk with our crossing guard. 160th is very important as well because it is a bus stop where our students are loading and unloading. One thing I would also like to note in your paperwork is that the traffic flow study that was conducted, it was actually done August 1st through 3rd, which is outside of our school year and during the summer months. So obviously you won't see as much traffic flow through that area during that time. It is routinely just lighter in the area. So we would appreciate all of the HOA presidents and all of the citizens in the Lone Oak subdivisions, as well as the president of all the HOAs, and the Master Sergeant Robert Scala. I've been working with him as well. We would truly appreciate your consideration for these requests. Our children's safety, of course, as you know, is our top priority. And sometimes, as we know, there are times outside the school day that we cannot control, but this is something we do have the ability to control to create a safer environment for our students. So I appreciate your consideration, and I'll address any questions that you may have this time.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, staff input?
Okay, you've got all our comments are before you. I want to highlight a few things for you. That we did conduct a spot speed study as part of the preparation of this case. You'll notice that the 85th percentile speed on Lone Oak Drive, based on our study, is 32 miles an hour. During this time we did run the study, the highest speed we recorded was 41. The one thing that's unusual about this particular intersection is on the east side of Lone Oak Drive. Lone Oak Drive has got a big sweeping curve in it, and Northwest 160th Street on the east side of the intersection is on what I guess you would consider to be the inside of the curve. And so for drivers coming out from 160th onto Lone Oak, they've got about 269 feet of sight distance to watch approaching traffic. In this particular case, since vehicles are, the 85th percentile is up above 30 miles an hour, had this road been posted at 30, we would have required about 315 feet of decision sight distance for those drivers coming out on 160th Street. It's kind of the prevailing speed is somewhat of a mitigating condition based on sight distance at this particular location. As Principal noted, our study, in order to get it on the agenda, our counts were collected slightly before the beginning of the school year. The intersection comes close to meeting warrants, but it doesn't quite. So if you look at speed trends on this particular roadway, I think you've actually kind of got a mitigating circumstance, but based on sight distance at 160th Street, so, which is ask for your consideration on this one.
All right, thank you. Do you have a motion concerning item 5M?
Move approval, of the application.
We have a motion to approve item 5M from Commissioner George. Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a second by Commissioner Schuline. Do we have any discussion on item 5M? Ma'am?
I just had a quick question about, at different times you see the lighted stop signs used. When are those used? On what occasions are they actually, with the LEDs?
Oh, the LED enhanced stop signs,
Yeah.
one of the blinker signs, I guess the best way to put it. We don't really have any warrants for their use. And the city has not, I mean, there are just a few instances of them in the city, but generally speaking that unless there is something remarkable like a high collision incident, rate or something along that line, maybe it was a stop in an unusual location, maybe something like that. It might be considered under a situation like that, but there are no particular warrants for the use of something like that. And those things, they are rather expensive. A typical stop runs in the neighborhood of probably about $125 per installation, and an LED enhanced stop runs in the neighborhood of about $1,600 per sign per location. So it does become a function of economics as to whether or not. I mean, in a perfect world, maybe it'd be great to use those things wherever you could, but the reality is that they are, it's an emerging technology, but it's also very expensive at this point in time. In this particular case, because Lone Oak's posted 25, what we would do in advance of the stop signs going in, we would have advanced stop-ahead signs placed as part of it, if approved.
Thank you.
Okay, ma'am?
Stuart, do you see any movement amongst the traffic signage people to come up with uniform messaging about distracted driving in school zones? Mommy traffic is an interesting set of traffic circumstances. I'll live it every day. I know what you're talking about. It's not a criticism. It's just kind of a new nuance of real distracted things. There's a lot going on when you're waiting to pick up your kids at carpool. Do you have signage about distracted driving, or is there any? But I'm just curious about, is there some place for that? Do you see an effort towards that?
Well, everyone that goes through driver's education is taught that you need to pay attention to what you're doing. Because generally speaking, I think the most dangerous thing that most people do on any given day is drive, is to get into a motor vehicle of some form. Because the potential for injury is so much higher just because of the sheer amount of energy and mass that you're moving around. With respect to distracted driving, I mean, the state has enacted laws making texting and driving illegal. So, the only thing we can do I think as a community is to kind of heighten awareness, or always keep it in front of people that, when you're behind the wheel of a vehicle, you need to pay attention to what you're doing, because there's, failing to do so can lead to some, just some horrid and tragic consequences that, you might have to live with for the rest of your life, and it's just not worth it.
Okay, any other talk on item 5M? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5M from Commissioner George, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Votes, please. Okay, item is approved. We go on now to 5N, Lacey Pageant, Principal, Deer Creek Elementary School. Consider a request for the addition of stop control on North Lone Oak Drive at Northwest 162nd Street to establish all-way stop control. You have any further input, ma'am? Well, come on up.
That is the actual crosswalk that the majority of our students do cross through from the school. It is the one closest to our school grounds.
All right, staff input.
All right, well, you've got our comments before you. As the principal just noticed, this particular intersection is the one that is the first intersection that's south of 164th Street, where kids that are walking back home or walking to school will approach and cross the intersection. I mean, it's the last intersection before you get to 164th Street. It's got, this one very nearly meets warrants for the use of all-way stop control at a three-way. It's just intersection, it's just slightly short of numbers. However, it's, you know, the numbers are, they're approximate. I mean, they give good guidance to people that are making decisions for their use. But like you noted, this is the primary location where, is this where you'll be running a crossing guard at this particular location?
In the afternoons, we do have a member on staff that does walk our students across that has already had several incidences and almost got hit herself with a train of kiddos behind her right here at this particular intersection.
Okay, is this individual trained as a crossing guard? Are they working?
No, this is a staff member of mine that we are using that is wearing a vest and has a big sign and everything.
Okay, because to function as a crossing guard, you need to, those individuals need to be vetted by the Oklahoma City Police Department, and they're and the schools and the police department will cost share with, you know, for paying for a person to work
right,
in the
and I have
capacity of a
mentioned
crossing
this
guard.
to our superintendent as well, and she is looking into that. But time-wise, we just needed to keep the kids safe, so we were, you know, at this point, we did what we needed to do to keep the kids safe.
Okay, we'll probably need to work with you and get some, at least someone trained, because they need to understand, you know, the correct type of safety vest that they need to be wearing,
yes, sir,
and proper management of the crossing.
Perfect. We'll work on it.
All right. Into that with them, please. All right. Okay. So you're recommending? Did you make a recommendation?
We're just recommending consideration by the commission.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Okay. Do we have a motion on 5N?
Being so close to the school, so close to them having enough numbers, I approval.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner George to approve item 5N. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schuline. Do we have any talk on item 5N? Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner George, seconded by Commissioner Schuline, to approve item 5N. Can I have your votes, please? Okay. And you're going to go ahead and contact her and the superintendent's office to try to get that person certified as quick as we can and get that added to the list of crossing guards. Okay, very good. Any, yes, ma'am. Okay, do we have any comments from citizens? Sir, you got anything to say? All right. Anybody else out there? No. Okay. Reports and other items. Let's start with Ward 1 to Commissioner Clare.
Nothing.
Okay. Commissioner Littlefield.
I'll make up for that. The Neighborhood Traffic Calming Subcommittee is awaiting the draft of, I'm trying to think of the term, a policy draft from the Public Works Department, so they're still working on that. Let it be known, too, that Commissioner Schuline and I would always be able to offer any help, if need be, along the way there. The only other comment that I want to make is last month I could not get this, for the sake of my life, to download the agenda. And what I discovered, because I'm a complete computer idiot, is you have to do updates. And I haven't done one since I got it. So if yours isn't cooperating, you need to update it. Is that the proper term?
Yeah, in fact, there was a big, large one, the iOS or whatever, 10 or whatever. It was a very large one. It took about a half hour over the weekend.
It's working great today.
Mm-hmm. Right. Good. That's a good point. All right. We go on Ward 3.
Nothing to report, sir.
Okay. Ward 4, me. Ward 5 to Commissioner Hale.
Just a couple of things real quick. One of the concerns I've got, and I've got no problems with the stop signs at the elementary school today. I think they were warranted and needed. I'm just always concerned that we send people out with this false sense of security that now we've got a stop sign so everything's great. There's no number of stop signs, speed signs that are going to stop distracted drivers. And that's exactly what she referred to with this near miss with the kid. I think we really, as a commission, need to stress that to these applicants that you need to get with your HOAs, you need to get with your neighborhood associations and put the word out that we'll do our best to put the signs, needed signs up, but you really need to work with us and get the distracted drivers to stop. The other thing I would mention, Commissioner Schuline and I had talked about it, and I think some of the commissioners. Last month, my dad was referenced as a former a traffic commissioner, and I was talking with my dad about it, and he recommended that I bring up and give some information that he was given as a new commissioner. And that is to always keep in mind that we have applicants that are here with concerns, but there is no individual or no single group that has the right to make streets their private drives. That the streets are designed, constructed, and maintained by the taxpayers, and that we always need to keep in mind that everyone has the right to use these roads. It's not for their convenience only. It's for everyone involved with the city. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, we go on now to Commissioner Schuline.
Just like to point out, if anyone would like to do a little field work this weekend is the Heritage Hills annual home tour. It's their 50th, 50, one of the longest continuous running home tours in the nation. And give you a little bit of our history and see a little bit about why it's important to preserve and protect this wonderful neighborhood.
Okay, Ward 7, Commissioner Miller.
Nothing to report, sir.
Ward 8, Commissioner George. Okay, you, sir? Okay, Counselor? Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
There's Commissioner Yonkel. Sorry. You sure? No, you're not. All right. So Commissioner Yonkel, none in there. The only thing I have before we get to staff is next month we have to elect a new chairman and vice chair. So if you'd like to be in that run-in, just let Shai know and we'll figure it out. And okay, now for you, sir.
I had nothing else to add for you this afternoon.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn? Need a motion to adjourn? We're done?
A motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn from Mr. Clare. Second by, we have votes, please. And we are adjourned.